Welcome to today's Tea Time audio story. It's time to slow down, take a deep breath, and enjoy a moment just for you. As you sip your favorite tea, let your mind drift into the world of stories, where imagination comes alive and anything is possible. Listening to audio stories isn't just entertaining, it's also a wonderful way to relax, spark creativity, and improve your English in a natural and enjoyable way. Stories have the power to transport us to far-off places, introduce us to new characters, and remind us of life's little lessons. So whether you're here to unwind, learn something new, or simply enjoy a quiet escape, this is your time. Get comfortable, let your worries melt away, and allow today's story to take you on a journey. Let the magic begin. The transition from childhood to adolescence brought with it inevitable changes. By the time Sophia Carter and Ethan Reynolds entered high school, their once inseparable friendship had started to shift. What had once been lazy afternoons of bike rides and secret hideouts now gave way to bustling high school hallways, crowded lunch tables, and the ever-evolving dynamics of teenage life. By the time she was 16, Sophia had blossomed into one of the most admired girls in school. Her wild auburn curls, once an untamed mess, now cascaded down her shoulders in perfect waves. Her hazel eyes, full of warmth and mischief, sparkled under the fluorescent lights of Willowbrook High. But it wasn't just her looks that caught attention. Sophia had an energy that drew people in. She was confident, witty, and effortlessly charming. She joined multiple clubs, the drama club, the student council, the cheerleading squad, and excelled in all of them. Teachers adored her, students wanted to befriend her, and boys, well, they definitely noticed her. It didn't take long for Sophia to become one of the most popular girls in school. She was invited to every party, her weekends filled with bonfires, school dances, and late-night study sessions that usually ended in laughter and gossip. She embraced her new world with open arms, basking in the attention and thrill of teenage life. But with that popularity came distance. The little pockets of time she once had for Ethan slowly started to vanish, replaced by new friendships, new priorities, and a new identity that sometimes felt far removed from the girl she had once been. Ethan, however, remained much the same. He had grown taller, his features sharpening into something more defined, but he still carried the same quiet presence that had been with him since childhood. His sandy brown hair was always slightly tousled, his hazel eyes often hidden behind thick-rimmed glasses. He wasn't unpopular, but he wasn't the center of attention either. He had a close-knit group of friends, mostly fellow book lovers and science club members, who shared his love for astronomy and deep conversations. Unlike Sophia, Ethan wasn't drawn to the spotlight. He preferred the solitude of the library over the noise of a crowded cafeteria. While others were at parties, he was either studying, helping his father at the firehouse, or sitting on his rooftop with a telescope, tracing constellations in the night sky. And yet, no matter how different their lives had become, Ethan still admired Sophia from afar. He saw the way people flocked to her, the way she laughed freely, the way she carried herself with an effortless confidence. She was still the girl who had once scraped her knees climbing trees with him, the girl who had held his hand when he was afraid of thunderstorms, the girl who had sworn they would always be best friends. But now, she seemed so far away. As their social lives drifted in opposite directions, so did their time together. Sophia's days were filled with cheerleading practices, student council meetings, and hanging out with her new friends. Ethan, meanwhile, spent his time with his books, his telescope, and the occasional soccer game with his small group of friends. Lunch breaks were no longer spent under the old willow tree in the schoolyard. Instead, Sophia sat at the center of the cafeteria, surrounded by chatter and laughter, while Ethan quietly ate with his friends at a table by the windows. He didn't resent her for it. He understood that people change, that life moves forward. But he couldn't ignore the ache in his chest whenever she walked past him in the hallway, her attention elsewhere, as if he were just another face in the crowd. She wasn't doing it on purpose, he knew that. Whenever they did get a moment alone, she was still the same Sophia. She still asked about his father, still teased him about his book collection, still smiled in that way that made his heart clench. But those moments were becoming rarer, lost in the whirlwind of high school life. Ethan didn't know when it started, this feeling that went beyond friendship. Maybe it had always been there, buried beneath childhood innocence, waiting to surface. But now, as he watched her from a distance, as he saw the way other boys looked at her, the way she laughed at their jokes, he realized what it was. He was in love with her. It was a quiet kind of love, the kind he never spoke about, never admitted even to himself. He kept it hidden, tucked away in the corners of his heart, afraid of what it might mean. Because the truth was, Sophia was slipping away from him. She was soaring, and he was still standing on the ground, watching her fly. And then, one night, everything changed. It was the night of the annual Fall Festival, a town tradition that had been around for generations. The air was crisp with the scent of caramel apples and bonfires, the sound of laughter and carnival rides filling the night. Ethan hadn't planned on going. Festivals weren't really his thing. But his friends had convinced him, and so he found himself wandering through the crowds, hands stuffed into the pockets of his jacket. He had just bought a cup of hot chocolate when he heard her voice. "Ethan?" He turned, and there she was. Sophia, standing under the glow of the festival lights, her eyes wide with surprise. She was wearing a cozy sweater, her hair pulled back into a loose ponytail, and for a moment, she looked just like the girl he had grown up with. "I didn't think I'd see you here," she said, smiling. "Yeah, well, got dragged here," he admitted with a small chuckle. She tilted her head, studying him. "I feel like we haven't talked in forever." Ethan shrugged. "You've been busy." Sophia frowned, as if realizing something for the first time. "I have, haven't I?" Her voice softened. "I miss you." Those 3 words made his heart stutter. Before he could say anything, she grabbed his hand. "Come on. Let's go on the Ferris wheel." Ethan hesitated, but the warmth of her hand in his was enough to make him follow. They climbed into one of the carriages, and as the Ferris wheel lifted them into the night sky, the town lights stretching below them, everything else seemed to fade away. For the first time in a long time, it was just the two of them. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the cool night air brushing against them. Then, Sophia spoke. "Do you ever think about when we were kids?" Ethan turned to look at her. "All the time." She smiled, but there was something sad in her eyes. "I miss it. I miss us." Ethan swallowed the lump in his throat. "We're still us, soft." She met his gaze, searching for something in his eyes. Then, she rested her head on his shoulder. "Promise me we won't drift apart. No matter what." Ethan's heart pounded in his chest. He knew things were changing, that nothing could stay the same forever. But in that moment, with the stars above them and Sophia leaning against him, he made a silent vow. "I promise." As the Ferris wheel reached its peak, Ethan looked at the girl beside him, the girl he had loved for as long as he could remember, and wondered if maybe, just maybe, she felt the same way too. Thank you for joining today's Tea Time story. We hope you enjoyed this journey into the world of imagination and storytelling. Whether it made you smile, sparked a new thought, or simply gave you a moment to relax, we're grateful to have shared this time with you. Thank you for listening and being part of our story time. Keep dreaming, keep imagining, and we'll see you again for another magical tale soon. Until next time, take care and happy listening.